eFootball Pro Evolution Soccer 2021 season update. Who gave the go-ahead for that name? Which moron at Konami said, "Hey, I'll tell you what will be catchy." Oh yeah? Go on, Brian. How about eFootball? Now, I know what you're thinking, because I'm the same genius that came up with Pro Evolution Soccer and ISS, or more lovingly known as International Superstar Soccer. Right, so we'll keep that, but we'll just stick eFootball at the front of it. Oh, Brian, you're a genius. I know, right? But what about the fact the game is just an update of 2020? Oh, shit, yeah. Right, wait a minute. I got it. Just stick the words season update at the end. Oh, Brian, you've done it again. Yep, I'm an E-legend. Now, whose turn is it to give me an E-blowjob? Welcome to our review of PES 2021. As Brian and his dimwit boss in Konami have already explained, PES 2021 is just an update of PES 2020, though it can be purchased as a standalone title for those who don't already own the game. Firstly, I just want to clarify that I am not a PES bumboy, and I have no bias towards PES over FIFA, or FIFA over PES. I've played and owned FIFA games since FIFA 94 and the Pro Evo franchise before it was even called Pro Evolution Soccer, back in the ISS days. With that out of the way, let's crack on with our review. The reason Konami have opted for an update rather than labelling it as a new game is mainly due to their focus being on the 2022 version of PES. Currently, PES is developed using the Fox engine and has served Konami well, bringing some of the most realistic ball physics, player movement and visuals seen on any football simulation game. Konami will be swapping out the Fox engine for the new Unreal Engine 5 to implement into their 2022 game, which is exciting and the reason for this update. I think their honesty to label this game an update is pretty refreshing. All too often a certain football game franchise opts to just transfer the players to the correct clubs, update the kits and slap a new coat of paint on the menu screens and sprinkle some new soundtracks in there. Whoop-de-doo. With PES 2021, the game largely remains the same. Konami have not hidden behind that fact and have reflected this within their hugely creative naming as well as a price tag of £25. A fair price, especially for those who are contemplating jumping ship from FIFA and entering the world of PES. The update, at first glance, is minimal. With the footballing world still a month away from closing the current transfer market, at the time of this review, there are still players at certain clubs who have been sold in the real world of football. With the previous versions of PES all receiving incredibly thorough updates that genuinely listen to the fans of the game, taking their opinions on board and making those changes, I see that continuing throughout the lifespan of PES 2021 too. So you can expect to see all the correct players being updated to their current clubs once the real transfer window slams shut. Until then, as always, PES has a hugely in-depth editing system where players can be completely created, deleted, altered, fondled, licked, shoved off a cliff and transferred. On the subject of editing and what's available to you as a player, the biggest gripe for a lot of casual gamers is the lack of authenticity, particularly regarding official kit and stadium licensing. This is where FIFA dominates the market, purely for its realistic aesthetic presentation of the beautiful game. You may have noticed in some of the footage being shown that there are some team kits that are not licensed in the standard version of the game, but the best thing Konami have done in the last 4 to 5 years of the PES games is fully embracing the modding community by including a section where players can import a full range of team licenses, so you can scrap Manchester B versus Chelsea B and replace them with the visuals that are arguably better than the kits shown in FIFA. These option files are easy to download, very cheap, costing around £5 to £10, and they're kept up to date throughout the year. There are a few places to source these option files, but I always use PES Universe as the results are always impressive. Well worth it for those who are turned off by the lack of licensing in the game. A link in the description for those who are interested? Yeah, we're nice like that. The gameplay in PES 2021 is largely the same as PES 2020, as you would expect. There are a few minor tweaks that feel noticeable when playing. Notably, the ball feels like its own entity, a little more disconnected from the players on the ball, a little looser, just like a real football should do at the end of the day, and there seems to be a few new techniques and player animations that take that level of realism up a notch. As with PES 2020, the fluidity of the game is the best in the biz. Konami always managed to replicate that feeling of freedom on the football pitch, marrying it up with the feelings of frustration when things don't quite go to plan. When you're less like Lionel Messi leaving 5 players on their asses, and more like Gavin the drunken knobhead from down the road who wanders into your 5-a-side game and boots your ball over the fence into a busy road and causes a pile-up. What a knob that Gavin is, eh? Everybody knows one. And if you don't, then you are bloody Gavin. The passing is crisp, the ball physics are authentic and genuine, and the game just feels fair. Gone are the days of Pro Evo 6 where all you needed to do to ensure victory was to pick either Inter Milan or Brazil and unleash maybe the most overpowered weapon in gaming history, Adriano's left boot. Boom! There's no overly powered cheat moves here that can guarantee a player a certain goal. In PES, there's a certain aspect of get good or get dictate to, and we fully appreciated how fair and grounded the game feels. The core of the gameplay is the best I've played in a football game to date. The player AI of both your own players and the opposition is class, and for those who want to play the game at a decent enough level or have a good enough understanding tactically, will notice some of the attacking runs, and some of the defenders track back to cover positioning is straight out of the coaching manual. There are still areas of the gameplay that are a bit weak in 2020, and sadly they are still weak in the 2021 update. In PES 2020, I received probably 10 to 15 yellow cards over the course of a whole season. I have to go out of my way to kick the living shit out of the opposition, and I receive a stern wag of the finger from the referee. That's it. The opposition AI is even more dainty when it comes to fouls. In 2020, I was near the end of my first season in Master League before the how to take a penalty tutorial popped up because I've received my first and only penalty. Another weak point that's continued on from 2020 into this year's game is the consistency in the shooting. Now I understand there's an element of realism that no two strikes will ever be identically hit, but there feels an imbalance when perfectly replicating the timing of your button presses on the controller to what happens on the pitch. That being said, screamers are as satisfying as ever when the net bulges and the keeper makes a pointlessly last-ditch effort to clip the ball over the bar. The shooting is solid enough, but with room for improvement. The skill moves haven't changed and still as hard to execute as ever. As they should be too. This is a simulation game, not an arcade game. No team in the world has 11 players that are all capable of 12 step overs followed by a rainbow flip before rocketing one in off the bar. In PES, trick moves are all performed using a variation of flicks on both sticks and will require new players some practice, but once you've perfected a certain move, as pleasing as that is, it can still be performed by players who've been trained in that skill move and have a high enough skill stat. Again, another massively rewarding get good situation. Visually, the players look immense, incredible likeness, including West Brom's new striker, Lou Bricant. Can't what? I reckon he can. I mean, his likeness is uncanny, a legend in the making. The commentary is the same as it's always been for the last 4 or 5 years, and those who have never played a PES game might find it refreshing, but the changes are usually non-existent. There's a few times in PES 2020 where the commentary refers to the team as they to avoid licensing issues, but with this update they've opted to be more specific, which actually makes it drastically worse. Referring to Manchester City or Manchester United as just Manchester is sacrilege, especially when they're playing each other, which in terms of immersion rapidly pulled me out and sprayed me down with a bukkake of mild disappointment. There's still all the gameplay modes you can expect, like the famous PES Master League, which for those unfamiliar is the main campaign mode. You take control of a manager, either a familiar face or a not so familiar face, and you run a club of your choice. The transfer system is fair, realistic, and negotiations can go just as smoothly as they can quickly become a disaster. My club is PES's rendition of FIFA's Ultimate Team, and has always been a clear attempt to emulate FIFA's success in this department, and, in all honesty, they do a good job of it. The extravagant and decorative nature of FIFA's Ultimate Team mode is what hooks in players. It's the reveal of a certain player being exposed to the buyer, with a little glimpse of their club emblem, their nationality, and eventually their face accompanied by fireworks and a fat beat drop that have FIFA players in love with and, in all honesty, addicted to this mechanic. My club doesn't try to be flashy in PES, in that it doesn't try to entice young impressionable children with bright colours, a pick and mix and a randy unicorn called Engelbert Calcium Head. Instead, it entices players to what should be important. Gambling a fake currency to buy fake football players to put into a fake team so I can beat somebody else's stupid fake team, giving me a warm, fuzzy, but fake and still totally arousing feeling of pride. Become a Legend is another mode that is another clear attempt at emulating FIFA's player career mode, and again, it does exactly the same here. There's an amazing level of customization to your player, which could really give those RPG, football-loving crossbreed players another reason to sack off plans with the missus, and for those of you who are single, a good reason to cancel all plans to go out and sit in the corner of a bar by yourself crying into your Bacardi Breezer. Loser! To summarise, the PES statement, "the pitch is ours," is cheap, tacky, and, in my opinion, still very true. The football pitch in this world of gaming is theirs. With Konami offering demos and light versions of their games, we highly recommend new players to at least try it out and give yourself 5 or 6 games to get into the swing of things. For me, this score is purely based on the fact that it's an update, and the game is still, at its core, PES 2020. Couple that with the fact that Konami made no attempt to try and disguise this as anything other than just an update, hanging their hat on the PES 2020 version of the game to close out this generation, makes me admire them even more. Even if they did insist on putting a needless E at the start of the game's title. But fortunately, we didn't need an E, or any other illegal substance for that matter, to help us enjoy this more than admirable update. So, our overall score for PES 2021? For those interested, when FIFA 21 releases, we will be purchasing and reviewing the game and following that up with a tit-for-tat comparison of the current gen FIFA brand versus PES brand to see who comes out on top. I've been Les. If you've enjoyed this review, please give it a big fat like. And hey, maybe hit that stonking red subscribe button too. Please follow us across all our social profiles, all links in the description box. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, peeps!